Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be testing out the new coverage move that was given to Cofagrigus for the very first time, Return. With the start of the Halloween Part 1 event, Shadow Yamask has released into 1-star Shadow raids. Now, what interested me honestly wasn't the Shadow Cofagrigus, but the Purified Cofagrigus, as currently Cofagrigus has no charge stacks that can hit dark types even for neutral damage. However, with Return, that changes. So I paired it up with a Credilli lead and a Blastoise save switch, and honestly went incredibly positive with this team in the 3100s. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out Returned Cofagrigus in the Great League. Hopping into the first match, picking up a pretty nice lead, Credilli into Togekiss. My opponent is going to retreat into a Shadow Drapion safe switch, and this is where things can get complicated. As Drapion, it does pretty well into this entire team. I don't have a designated response, so I send out Blastoise, because Blastoise is exceedingly neutral, and its bulk allows it to tank a crunch and not get farmed down after as long as I don't get debuffed. But by tanking a crunch, my opponent can now fire off these Aqua Tails, and I'm forced to put up the shield. I know they're going to win switch advantage anyway, so I may as well get aggressive. I pivot back into Credilli. I just need to get to a Rock Tomb against this Drapion, and they don't switch. That's really good for me, because now this is devastating damage done onto the Drapion. Unfortunately, Drapion hangs on 1 HP. This is obviously going to be a debuffed Aqua Tail, but it's still damage that lands nevertheless. In comes Togekiss. They will win charge stack priority, but instead they're going to make a catch onto Stunfisk. Now this works out nicely for me, as now out comes Cofagrigus. Cofagrigus is a pretty bulky Pokemon already, and the fact that they're debuffed means that these Mud Bombs are going to do absolutely nothing. I'm going to overfarm quite a bit, going for the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball I don't think will be enough to knock out, because Stunfisk is quite bulky as well. They will hang on, but I can save the shield for a charge attack from Togekiss, and I'm looking to land the Return. Return will hit slightly harder in neutral scenarios. Back in comes the Togekiss. It is very, very healthy. Cofagrigus farming up, getting to the Return, and now it is time. Return into the Togekiss, takes the knockout. In comes Stunfisk. They get Shadow Claw down, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, picking up a very scary lead, Credilli into Shadow Charizard. It's on Dragon Breath as well. Farm up, switch into the Blastoise, getting the catch, and the rollout sneak as well. That's double super effective damage that will land. They ended up going for an Air Cutter bait, and now the Blastoise is going to be answered with a Gastrodon. Gastrodon going to get hit with a Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon does pretty nice damage, but the important thing to realize is a second Hydro Cannon will miss the knockout. Granted, their Body Slam won't knock out either, so Blastoise will be able to hang on, but I'm going to look to get aggressive. I'm going to be pivoting back into Credilli, looking for the Acid Farm down, but they have just enough HP on the Gastrodon to hang on and make it to the Water Pulse. Water Pulse lands, that's quite a lot of damage. They can't really afford to bring back in the Charizard, so they're going to bring in their final Pokemon, which is a Metal Sound Empoleon. Empoleon, definitely not what Credilli's hoping to see, but up this much energy, Grass Knot actually is able to grab a shield. I make it to Grass Knot number 2, hoping my switch timer is up, but it's not. I cannot escape. And this is going to be a tricky game. In comes Cofagrigus. Cofagrigus, I have to shield something, so I will put up the shield on the Hydro Cannon. In comes the Shadow Charizard. Charizard is going to farm back up to the Blast Burn. Tough decision to make. I shield. I get it wrong. It's the Air Cutter. And now they're getting to the Blast Burn. But we have one final catch. Oh my goodness, they make the Blast Burn. That lands onto the 1 HP Blastoise. And now Cofagrigus should be in position to close out this game. But the problem is the Empoleon does have quite a bit of energy. It's getting close to the Hydro Cannon, and it gets there. Cofagrigus, it's very bulky. I need it to hang on. Hydro Cannon does not knock out Cofagrigus, withstanding the damage, getting to the Shadow Ball, knocking out Empoleon, and securing the win. Hopping into the next match, leading Credilli into Shadow Kanto Marowak. Now this is a pretty okay matchup for the Credilli. Marowak can definitely make it very uncomfortable, especially if they throw the first move right away. This does give me a free acid, but Credilli is never able to outpace in this matchup, and guaranteeing that they can force a shield or land some damage before getting debuffed is very nice for the Marowak. Marowak, now this throw-in alignment is just indefensible. There's no reason to throw an alignment here when Marowak could have thrown on good timing and still been able to outpace the Credilli. Now, I will look to threaten the final shield, and then once I do, it's Blastoise time. Shields are down, which is exactly what I want for Cofagrigus in the back, because Cofagrigus, I'm running Shadow Ball Return. It's going to be very slow to get the charge attacks. Out comes a Azumarill. My opponent looks like they waited a turn there to see if I would throw the Hydro Cannon, but no. Instead, I'm going to get to fire off the Skull Bash onto the Azumarill. Azumarill gonna throw energy, and this works out great for me. Not only does Play Rough not knock out, but by switch timers up, I can save all the energy, and it's Cofagrigus time. Cofagrigus just gonna put up the shield and look to farm, as they are completely energy dry now. In comes the Marowak. Marowak is 3 off, and I am not letting them get to a Bone Club. Instead, Marowak is gonna get sent back to the Pokeball by the Shadow Ball. And now, things could get a little bit tricky. They can't bring in the Azumarill. It's dry. They're going to have to show their third, and it's a Fortress. And this is where all the stored energy on the Blastoise is going to be so helpful. I need to land a Shadow Ball and then farm them into Hydro range. So I farm up. There's the combo play with the Blastoise, and this Hydro Cannon should knock out, and they lose all of their energy. In comes Azumarill. I commit to the Skull Bash. Unfortunately, I do get bubbled down, but I'm still in an unlosable position, because if they ever throw energy at the Credilli, then they're getting outpaced by the Cofagrigus. So instead, they're just going to let the Credilli take the win, because either way, there was just no way out. Credilli into Togekiss in the next match, a familiar lead. This Togekiss is staying in. I'm going to try and catch on 6, but they throw on 5. So I didn't quite get that prediction right. Catching an Aura Sphere onto the Cofagrigus would have been a very flashy play, though. I'm going to return fire with the Rock Tomb, as these Pecks actually do a solid amount of damage, and even though they are 1-stage debuffed, Aura Sphere is still going to be exceedingly threatening. So I put up the shield. They're now going to pivot into Galarian Corsola. Corsola going to get met with the Rock Tomb. It's very unlikely they undertap here, so I should be safe to rebank a charge attack for later and then go Blastoise. This works out nicely. Normally Blastoise struggles against Galarian Corsola, but they are debuffed, which means their Nightshades are going to be doing very negligible damage. And now I can massively overfarm with the Blastoise. Blastoise, Hydro Cannon will not take the knockout, but will get them very low. My opponent's able to bank energy. In comes Quagsire. Quagsire now at an Aqua Tail or a potential Mud Bomb. Hydro Cannon is going to land. It looks like Hydro Cannon will 2-shot, so I'm just going to undertap the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon lands, but no, the Quagsire 1 HP. They only have 6 Mud Shots, so this can only be an Aqua Tail, but that's still damage that I didn't really want to take. I should be healthy enough to make it to a Hydro Cannon. It's going to be close. In comes the Togekiss. I get the Hydro Cannon. They catch onto the Corsola, but this means they're going to lose all of their energy. So the Hydro Cannon is going to land. Togekiss snipes down, but now I can just bring in the Cofagrigus. And Cofagrigus will very comfortably survive a Dazzling Gleam, as Cofagrigus is very bulky. They're going to go for an Aura Sphere BM, and I will be able to take that game. Hopping into the next match, Credilli into Furret. Considering what I have in the back, it is incredibly good to see Furret here. Furret will have the same pacing as the Credilli, so I'm not going to throw right away. Instead, I would rather have residual energy, because if you go for a charge attack priority tie, it's really easy for an opponent to switch out into something that can outpace the Credilli. But now I have a little bit of residual. I'm going to look to do the same play again, but they overfarm and they cap time me. Oh no, they read me like a book. They would have let me just throw the Rock Tomb and take the shield advantage or just win switch, but now things could get a little bit spooky. I'm just going to farm up quite a bit of energy, switch into the Blastoise. They hold the energy, and now they will get to connect with the Trailblaze. The Furret is very, very low. Trailblaze lands, that's big damage. Out comes a Torterra. That's not what I was expecting to see behind a Furret, and I will bait the Ice Beam. That is successful. I'm able to grab a shield. They fail the Mud Slap down, and I will leave with a parting gift of a Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon does do quite a lot of damage. They do have a Frenzy Plant loaded. I'm going to bring in Credilli just to force them to throw their energy. So I bring in the Credilli, but they don't throw their Frenzy. A very odd play from them, as now they just lose all that energy. I'm looking to send in the Cofagrigus in the back. Oh no, it's ABA normal. Oh my goodness, I have Return, so Return will allow me to hit for neutral into the Wigglytuff, but unfortunately, Wigglytuff double resisted the Shadow Claws means that I just don't think I have enough in the tank to take home this win. Return lands, that's pretty nice damage even for being debuffed. If I could survive this Icy Wind, I would have the Return loaded, but unfortunately, I just don't have enough HP. Wigglytuff will charm everything down, and we will lose that game. Credilli into Shadow Scizor, very bad lead, but I have an amazing response to it in Blastoise. Provided you switch instantly, Blastoise will always get the Hydro Cannon before they get the Trailblaze. So if they ever throw before you, you know it's a Night Slash and you can no shield, or if they try and get to the Trailblaze, they're the ones who have to give up the shield or massive damage first. So they put up the shield, now they are going to bait with the Night Slash. I'm just going to keep farming. They're going to switch, sending out Credilli, but by staying in as long as they did, they really desynced the switch timers. So after the Hydro Cannon lands, I can rebank a Hydro and send back in Credilli. I have no interest in throwing a charge attack early in this matchup. I just want to try and get their Credilli as low as humanly possible and try and exit with a charge attack to threaten the Scizor. So they'll fire off the back-to-back Rock Tombs. This will do big damage to my Credilli, and I'll farm up just shy of 100. This Grass Knot is at -2 attack. It's not going to be enough to knock out, but we'll get them low. In comes the Scizor. Scizor doesn't throw the Night Slash. Instead, they went for the Bullet Punch, but they get one turn bring in there because the Credilli snuck in the mirror. Now I combo play with the Hydro Cannon. Scizor goes down. All that energy is lost. And now, basically, it doesn't really matter what's in back. We should be in a winning position. It's going to be Shadow Kanto Marowak, and Marowak is about to get absolutely rocked by a Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon is going to land. Marowak is going to get the full farm down as they exit with so much energy. I'm waiting the timer to throw a Shadow Claw and catch onto the Credilli. And oh my goodness, we are popping off in this game. And with that catch, we probably win anyway, but now we definitely win because they're only going to get to one move on the Marowak. I get that farm down. All that's left is the Credilli, and Credilli cannot get the 2 charge attacks, so we're able to take the win. Credilli into Shadow Dusknoir in the next match. This is a problem Pokemon for this team, as Dusknoir has a winning matchup into everything. I'm going to stay in with the Credilli to start with and fire off the Rock Tomb. I'm expecting them to throw 3 in the move, so I switch into the Cofagrigus. Please tell me this is the Dynamic Punch catch onto the Cofagrigus. It is! Oh my goodness! Dusknoir in shambles. They're going to fire off the Shadow Punch to get the shield, but just like that, all of their energy has been neutralized. In comes Azumarill. And this matchup is pretty nice for the Cofagrigus because I haven't taken enough damage to be in play rough range. So I'm able to land the Shadow Ball. My opponent's going to overfarm massively, and I'm just going to go for Shadow Ball number 2. I want to try and lock in as much damage as I can. Shadow Ball lands. They are now deep into the red HP, and if I survive, I'm going to look to pivot out. The play rough lands. I'm able to hang on. In comes the Blastoise, and I get a 2 rollout head start. In the back is Charjabug, and things could get a little bit spooky. Charjabug does end up throwing on alignment. This is going to force me to go over 100 energy, I believe, so I decided to go for the Skull Bash. Volt Switch is a great move, but Discharge is a terrible move, so I'm counting on the fact that because I buffed up my defense, I can survive this Discharge. Come on, Blastoise. Blastoise takes the Discharge, and we leave with the Hydro into the Dusknoir, and that survive wins us the game on the spot. As Credilli outpaces, we get the Grass Knot. What a game. Catches galore, the 1 HP survive, and that's a good game. Picking up a terrible lead in the next match, Credilli into Primeape. I do think the Credilli Blastoise core is one of the strongest in the Great League. However, a big issue for it is going to be fighters, as obviously Blastoise uses rollout, and if the Primeape has close combat, which they do, then things could get uncomfortable. Here, I'm going to be firing off the Skull Bash because I can only get to 1 charge attack. The Skull Bash is going to land, and that does do some very nice damage. In comes Credilli. Credilli looking for a big farm, as Wigglytuff will get to connect with an Icy Wind, lowering my attack. This will give me a little bit of extra farm, so I exit pretty low and debuffed, but I do exit with a lot of energy. I'm going to fire off the debuffed Grass Knot because I just need damage. They're going to no shield, out comes Cofagrigus, and now I don't know what they have in the back, so I am going to be shielding up the Rage Fist. They're going to stay in. They realize they're getting farmed down, so they send in Talonflame. And I think this game is actually winnable. Talonflame has to respect everything, so Shadow Ball is going to be shielded. They're now at the Fly. I'm going to be no shielding. If they Brave Bird, they instantly win the game, but it's just going to be the Fly. I throw the Shadow Ball. If I'm 2 acids off the Rock Tomb, I win this game because I will be able to outpace. I switch into Credilli, but I'm 3 off instead of 2, and that's going to seal my fate because Primeape will barely survive the 2 acids to make the move. I couldn't ever afford to throw a move at the Primeape because then I just lose to the Talonflame, and unfortunately, we will drop that game. Hopping into the final match, leading Credilli into Galarian Moltres. Now this matchup is a bit of an interesting one. I have a really nice check to Moltres in the back with the Blastoise, and Cofagrigus would have a terrible time. So being able to neutralize this Moltres on the lead would be incredibly helpful for me. Rock Tomb does get shielded. They're going to bank a little bit of energy, and out comes Shadow Drapion. We saw Shadow Drapion earlier, and it's consistently a problem Pokemon. I decide that I'm locking into a Skull Bash, because a Hydro Cannon, they can survive, but a Skull Bash, they can't. Do they respect it? They do not. The Skull Bash lands, down goes Drapion, and with it, I am now at a pretty big advantage in this game. Because of the buff to my defense, I survive the Sucker Punches, get to the Hydro Cannon, and that's going to get them very low. They survive on 1 HP with a Fly loaded. In comes Credilli, in the back is Clodsire, and out comes Cofagrigus. For pacing reasons, I will have to go for Shadow Ball in this matchup. I think I've only landed 1 return, which is a little bit unfortunate, but a lot of the scenarios have dictated that I go for the cheaper Shadow Ball just for pacing reasons, because if I go for the return, then suddenly the Clodsire would be able to outpace. Clodsire, speaking of outpacing, they're going to go for a Stone Edge. Switch Clock is just not up. I think they paused there, hoping that they could switch out, but they were unable to do so. Now I can safely switch into Credilli, and I'm able to make it to the Grass Knot. Grass Knot should be knocking out the Clodsire. All that's left is the 1 HP Galarian Moltres, and this game is a win. Even if they had the Brave Bird and could take the knockout, I still had enough of Cofagrigus where I could have Shadow Clawed down. All in all, I actually had a ton of fun with this team. I do think that Cofagrigus is a bit underrated right now. I did really like the coverage that Return can provide and an ability to hit harder in neutral matchups. The one drawback, of course, is going to be the pacing. With Shadow Ball and Return, Cofagrigus, even with Dark Pulse Shadow Ball, already didn't have great pacing, so it does make the pacing slightly worse. But I think the biggest issue facing Cofagrigus is just the fact that we have so many insanely good ghost types right now. Even Dusclops, which was top meta in previous seasons, has taken quite a big fall as Pokemon like Galarian Corsola and Shadow Dusknoir have risen to become the top ghost types of prominence. I think giving up a tiny bit of pacing in exchange for new coverage is honestly a pretty nice trade for Cofagrigus, but the biggest issue Cofagrigus is going to have is the ghost type niche is an extremely crowded one. And with Pokemon like Shadow Dusknoir and Corsola already very, very high in usage, it's going to be difficult for something like a Cofagrigus to find play since it doesn't have the same good matchups that those other 2 ghost types have. But I do think this is a Pokemon that's worth grabbing. Specifically, if you want a Great League eligible Cofagrigus, you will need to trade for it, as the current floor for Shadow Raids for the Halloween event is 6 attack, 6 defense, and 6 HP. So if you purify it, the lowest you can have is 888, which I believe is guaranteed to be over 1500. So what I did is I ended up trading for one, and because the trade floors are lower than 888, I was able to roll it into a Great League eligible purified Cofagrigus. Now, obviously, if they have future Rocket events where these are in raids, and in the Rocket events, usually they take away the ID floors, then it'll be a lot easier to get a purified Great League one. But I do think it is worth grabbing one, because Cofagrigus has great stats, and this is the only way to get one that has a coverage move. So I think it's worth grabbing. It's not particularly meta relevant right now, but as we know, metas can rise and fall, and I think this is a nice change that does give Cofagrigus just a little bit of extra play. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.